Before we begin, let your shoulders drop. Let the weight of the day slide down, down, down. There's nothing left for you to do. Nowhere you need to be. Just this moment, and this quiet breath. Feel the coolness of night wrapping softly around you. Like a gentle wool cloak, woven of peace and stillness. With every breath, imagine the stars drawing nearer. Soft lanterns above a sleepy world. Close your eyes, if they haven't already, and listen as the wind slows, as your thoughts quiet, and as the gentle tale begins. Our story tonight begins in a village so small you might miss it on any map. A little moss-green place called Eldenbrook. Tucked between old trees and forgotten roads. Eldenbrook was known not for its size, nor its stone bridge, but for the sound that floated through its hills on moonlit nights. A sound so soft, so silver-threaded. It was said even the owls blinked slower when they heard it. It came from a figure with a cloak of ash-gray wool, and a harp carved from pearwood. Smooth, pale, and strung with horsehair so fine. It shimmered when the moon looked down. This was the Night Bard. No one knew where he lived. No one ever saw him in daylight. But the people of Eldenbrook swore that, on clear nights when the stars hung low, he would sit at the edge of the great willow grove, just beyond the old shepherd's field, and play. They say he never sang for coin. Never asked for shelter. He sang for the owls. And perhaps, for the trees. Because you see, in the time of our story, in the days of whispering firelight and hand-carved doors, it was believed that music held something more. That the right melody, played at the right time, could calm storms, settle restless hearts, and even hush the deep woods into dreams. And so, when night fell over Eldenbrook, candles dimmed, and shutters creaked closed, the villagers would lie in bed, quiet, listening, as soft harp notes drifted through the meadows. The Night Bard's melodies were old. Some said they were passed from one bard to the next, not by parchment or ink, but by memory alone. For in medieval times, the bard was a keeper of stories. A walking library of songs, poems, histories, and secrets. Before printing presses and bound books, it was the bards who carried tales from town to town. Each one memorized. Sometimes hundreds of verses at once. Tucked away like folded maps in the corridors of their minds. And now, if you listen just a little more closely, you might hear it too. A chord, as soft as night wind through pine. The bard is tuning his harp. He's about to begin. Are you ready? Because the forest is already listening. The moon was high now, casting a soft, silvery hush across the fields. Mist gathered at the edges of the sheep meadows, curling around the low stone fences like sleepy cats. And beneath the great willow grove, the Night Bard sat cross-legged, on a patch of moss that had learned his shape. His harp, pearwood and pale as drifted snow, rested gently in his lap, its strings whispering even before he touched them, as though they too remembered the melodies yet to come. The wind held its breath. And then, a note. Just one. Tender. Low. It drifted outward like a single feather falling. Then came another. And another. Each one spun like a thread of silk across the treetops, between the thatched roofs, over the millpond's sleeping glass. Somewhere, an owl hooted softly. A sound like an old friend greeting the music once more. The bard's fingers moved like water over stone. Slow, sure, and practiced. He did not read from paper. He never had. For in those days, the bards of the old paths trained their minds to hold oceans of verse. Each song was a story. And each story, a world. They used tricks of memory, patterns in the rhyme, the rhythm of breath, the logic of legend, so that even the longest tale would never be lost. Some said the Bard of Eldenbrook had wandered for years before settling here, drawn not by gold or comfort, but by the way the hills echoed back his music, like a promise kept. Tonight's song was one the forest had not heard in many moons. It began with the tale of a silver fox, a creature said to visit only those who dream with open eyes. The fox lived in the woods beyond the ridge, where no cart path ran, and where the mushrooms glowed faintly after rain. It would appear only when a soul was in quiet need, not of saving, but of remembering. And as the bard played, you could almost see her. Silver fur soft as candlelight, eyes full of old knowing. She moved slowly through the tall grass, each paw step silent, as if time itself made space for her to pass. The night bard's voice, when it came, was little more than a breath, a low murmur carried on harp string and wind. He sang in the old tongue, not Latin, not French, but something older still, a forgotten weave of Celtic and Saxon, kept alive only in song. No one in Eldenbrook understood every word, but they didn't need to. For music, real music, the kind sung under starlight to no one in particular, didn't need translation. It curled around the heart, pressed gently behind the eyes, and lulled the body into a listening deeper than hearing. You are safe now, in your bed, warm, wrapped in soft night sounds. The wind outside is slow and kind. And the bard, he's still playing. Let's listen, just a little longer. The song spun onward, soft as brushed velvet, threading through the air like breath in cold morning. It carried images, not sharp and loud, but drifting, like memory stirred by candlelight. There was a glade, bathed in mist and lit by fireflies. In the center of it, a circle of stones older than any living voice. Children once danced there under solstice moons, believing the rhythm of their feet could wake the earth. And perhaps it did. In those times, people still spoke to rivers, still thanked the wind, still sang to seeds before placing them in the ground. The bard's fingers paused for just a moment, a breath, and then resumed, slower now, as if the harp were remembering too. Deep in the forest beyond Eldenbrook, where brambles guarded hidden paths, there was said to be a tree with bark like iron. It did not bloom, did not shed, but if you pressed your ear to it at midnight, you could hear old verses, ones no mouth had spoken in centuries. This was not magic, the bard believed. This was memory. Not human, but Earth's memory. The same way certain caves echoed with the voices of monks long past. Or how ruins held onto the scent of lavender oils once stored in clay. He sang of this, not in loud declaration, but gently. So gently, as if not to wake the moss. A second owl joined the first, its wings stirring the air like turning pages. They perched high in the willow canopy, heads tilted, silent but watchful. There was an old belief in places like Eldenbrook, that owls carried dreams to the other side of sleep. They did not speak, but they listened. And if you sang to them softly enough, they would remember your dreams for you, so you wouldn't have to. The bard sang for them now. He sang of longing not fully named, Of travelers who wandered but never felt lost. Of hearthfires that welcomed without question. The harp's tones, once bright and clear, now faded into warmth. Like the golden quiet after bread is pulled from the oven. His voice, too, dipped low. A whisper beneath breath. Like a lullaby hummed to a cradle. Already stilled by slumber. Somewhere, in a cottage with crooked shutters, a child's fingers loosened their grip on a wool blanket. In another house, an old woman smiled in her sleep. A name she hadn't spoken in years curling gently at the edge of her dream. The song moved through them all. And you, dear listener, you are part of this too. The notes are finding you. The bard doesn't know your name, but his music does. It reaches into your room, into your quiet thoughts, and tucks the night gently around your shoulders. Like the hush of falling snow. Let it cover you. The bard will play until even the owls begin to sleep. The wind stirred softly, like a page being turned. The bard shifted his hands, drawing forth a new melody. One even slower, even softer, as though carved from the silence itself. This was not a song with words, but with pauses, spaces, notes that let the listener fill in the meaning. It was the sound of a warm stone floor at dusk. A wooden cup set gently down. The last candle being snuffed after a long evening. It was the feeling of home, without ever needing to define it. Far away from the grove, beneath clay rooftops and soot-streaked chimneys, Eldenbrook slept. And as the village lay quiet, the bard's song flowed into the dreams of its people. To the baker, it brought images of rising loaves, steam curling from ovens, as softly as breath on a cold pane of glass. To the stable boy, a dream of open fields, bare feet brushing tall grass, the sound of a horse's hooves at a calm canter. To the innkeeper's daughter, the melody turned inward, pulling from some old memory not fully named. It became the hush of chapel bells ringing at dusk, the weight of wool blankets over tired shoulders, the scent of dried thyme and baked barley in the air. The bard's fingers slowed again, almost still. He let the harp hum by itself, strings vibrating faintly in the cool night air. He didn't speak now. He didn't need to. The air itself was thick with unspoken verses. In the medieval world, bards were more than entertainers. They were keepers of silence. They knew when to stop the music, when to let a pause say more than a rhyme ever could. Some abbeys even kept a seat empty at meals. Not for a guest, but in case a bard ever arrived, bringing songs that the walls hadn't heard before. Their music was prayer. Each chord, a form of remembering, of offering. And the Night Bard of Eldenbrook, he offered his music to the trees, to the stars, to the dark. He asked for nothing in return. The villagers never sought him out. They knew, instinctively, that he came only when the world needed quieting. Children were told to keep still when his music passed through the windows. Not because they were in trouble, but because the bard's songs were like dandelion fluff. Too much noise, and they might vanish. Some left bread and honey near the grove's edge. Not to lure him, just to thank him. Tiny loaves, still warm. Wax-wrapped jars. Tokens of gratitude too soft to say aloud. Tonight, those gifts remained untouched. The bard had not eaten, but the music was full. And the village was calm. No cries. No footsteps. No shutters slamming in wind. Even the dogs, who barked at passing clouds, slept through the night. And you, You two are resting more deeply now. Not quite asleep. But not fully here either. That's good. That's the space the bard plays for. Not the waking mind. But the one just beneath it. Where stories swirl in velvet shadows. And time breathes slowly. Breathe in. And let go. There's no need to remember every note. The music remembers you. Let it hold you. Let it carry you softly. Toward the edge of sleep. The bard still plays. And you are safe in the sound. The air around the bard was motionless now. As though the whole forest were caught in a long exhale. Even the leaves had stilled. No rustle. No stir. Only the weightless echo of the harp. And the slow rhythm of thought winding down. He had begun a new melody. Slower. Deeper. It was the kind of tune bards learned only in solitude. A lullaby sung not to children. But to the soul itself. Some called it the sleeper's thread. A tune older than kingdoms. Passed in secret between wandering minstrels and monastery scribes. It was said to ease not only tired minds, but aching memories too. To gently loosen knots formed in the heart. By long days and longer thoughts. And as the song wrapped itself around Eldenbrook, the cottages exhaled. A widow's hand, once clenched in rest, softened. A shepherd's brow smoothed as he dreamed of rolling fields. A baby, who had stirred restlessly, sank into peaceful slumber with a sigh that matched the harp's tone. Even the animals felt it. Horses nuzzling each other in hay-scented stables. Barn cats curling tighter around themselves. Chickens huddled in the straw. Heads tucked beneath their wings. The whole village. In harmony with one sound. One slow, falling note. After another. There were tales. Rarely spoken aloud. Of forests that had once fallen asleep completely. After a bard sang beneath their boughs. Where the trees did not shed. The moss grew thick over every stone. And no footsteps broke the hush for years. Eldenbrook was not lost like those places. But for this one night. It hovered at the edge. Just enough magic to remember stillness. Not so much that it forgot to wake. And you, in your quiet corner of the world, are part of this night's hush. The bard did not stop playing. But he no longer needed to think about it. His hands moved from memory. From instinct. From a place beyond awareness. His eyes, half-lidded, gazed out across the moonlit grass. He saw nothing. And yet he saw everything. The way mist curled like ribbon through trees. The slow blink of the owls above. The gentle bend of tall reeds at the river's edge. All part of the song. All woven in. Let your mind drift there now. Let it find its place along that riverbank. Where dew kisses the tips of grass. And the moonlight does not ask anything of you. Nothing is expected. Nothing is required. There is only being. Breathing. And listening. The night bard is still with you. And the song is far from over. And so, as the moon pressed higher into the velvet sky, and the great oaks nodded in timeless rhythm, the bard's voice slowed, as if aware that the forest was on the edge of slumber. His harp, the old pearwood frame now cooled by midnight air, rang its final verse. Not loud. Not boastful. But delicate, like dew slipping from a petal. The owls had ceased their watchful blinking and nestled quietly into the hollows of trees. Even the wind curled up gently beneath mossy stones, its breath now barely a whisper. The bard looked up. Stars, so many stars, watched him back. And for a moment, he imagined that each one held a memory of a song once sung, each light a keeper of a melody from long ago. In the hush of that hour, with all of Eldenbrook asleep, the bard did something he rarely did. He closed his eyes, and listened. Not for applause. Not for affirmation. But for stillness. The quiet that came after music, like the hush between heartbeats. The kind of silence only heard by those who truly listen. And in that soft silence, he smiled. For he knew, beneath the boughs, under the stars, wrapped in the velvet hush of a sleeping world, his lullaby had reached far.